Welcome back, everybody. It's just gone 7:15 on this Thursday morning. The new 90-member National Council of Provinces, or NCOP, will sit for the very first time today. 400 members of parliament were sworn in by the Chief Justice yesterday, and the country is now basically waiting for President Cyril Ramaphosa to appoint his cabinet. What economic priorities should the 6th Democratic Parliament consider putting into action? With a waning economy and the lack of fiscal prudence for some time now, what does government need to do to grow this economy? Head researcher at Milpark Business School, Dr. Sam Koma, joins us in studio to discuss this and more. Good to have you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Morning, Lian. Thanks for having me.
So let's look at what happened yesterday. So big news coming up that Didi Mabuza, our deputy president, wasn't going to be sworn in as an MP. He was going to postpone that, talk to the Integrity Committee. We saw Nomvula Mokonyane being redeployed to Latuli House. Malusi Gigaba not going to be sworn in as MP. And these names that I'm mentioning are the names that sort of come to mind when you talk to, the corruption that South Africa has been engulfed in for these last 10 years. What does this mean for the investor? What does this look like?
Yeah, I think if we look at the issue of Deputy President David Mabuza, the sense I have is that he now has political ambition. He might have decided to say the best way of mobilizing, and also to some extent in future, if he has to ascend to the top post, he has to clear his name. And he wants to do that through having an opportunity to present his case or side of the story with the Integrity Commission, because we all agree that so far Didi Mabuza has not been convicted by any court of law. His name is not implicated in any of the commissions that have been set up by the president, but I think he wants to spend some time and also to unify his fractured province, because there are now some tensions in his province. And we remember in 2017 at the Nazareth conference, Mpumalanga had the second biggest delegates going to that conference. So he may want to address that part, but he has nothing to lose. His perks, his benefits for serving as a deputy president are still intact. And also that is not much of a worry for him.
Yeah, that's his perspective, and talking to him, and because there is so much more going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Yeah. But having said that, for the investor, as I mentioned earlier, and looking into South Africa and suddenly seeing perhaps this cleanup happening, is this good?
Yeah.
Is it good?
No, the investors obviously they're looking for political stability. They are concerned about political risk that may arise from disunity within the political ranks of the governing party. But they may find solace in the fact that the president has already assured the investment community, the business community, to say he intends to assemble a cabinet of competent, capable, and people who have integrity. So that is a positive message that the investors will accept, and also look forward to the final appointment of the cabinet.
Yeah, and that is something that I think all of us are watching with bated breath on. Because when we look back at, let's just take the Auditor General's report as an instance. We see corruption and government's fruitless expenditure. It runs into billions annually, and it's an occurrence that happens all of the time. What guarantee is there that state funds now will be put to good use and towards services, the services that South Africans are crying for this time around?
Yeah, exactly. I think the good thing is that this president, he has already made certain commitments to the nation prior to the election of May, and also prior for him being elected as the president of the ANC, to say those who stole money, the money has to be found, and also those people who committed wrongdoing have to be brought to book and also face consequences. And he has stressed that issue of consequences management, to say it's high time public servants have to be devoted to their duties and also diligently execute their responsibilities. And he said, that's what he said to the nation, to say this is what he's going to address in the 6th administration, which is part of the cabinet that is going to set up. So the jury is still out whether we'll have an efficient, effective, and capable state, because that is what the National Development Plan envisages. It says we need to develop a developmental and capable state that is able to respond to the needs and expectations of this society, and also have efficient and effective administration either at the national, provincial and also local government level. And you're right, if you look at the AG reports, consistently he has raised some of the leakages that are taking place within the system, and asking those who are political office bearers who are expected to exercise oversight role to take decisive and bold actions against implicated individuals.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at all of these members being sworn in, and we watched this for a large part of yesterday, 400 MPs altogether. And, you know, this also doesn't take into account the additional provincial legislatures. Now, you know, this is something we need to take into consideration, that each one of these individuals, these MPs, earn about $1 million per annum.
Yeah.
And so many people also talk to the fact that this is far too many MPs. I mean, do we really, as a country, if we talk about tightening that belt and bringing in all of these economic priorities and fiscal spending, I mean, fiscal prudence, is this what we want? 400 MPs sitting in one room together? Is it necessary to have so many MPs?
No, you're right, Leanne. I mean, our economy is not been growing to acceptable levels. The government has a huge debt. It is servicing the debt in terms of funding its social programs and infrastructure programs. It has a huge deficit. But the interesting part is that the Constitution already provides some scope to address this issue of the membership of the National Assembly, because it provides that the National Assembly may consist of no fewer than 350, no more than 400 members. So there is a scope to work on what would be the more cost-effective approach or option in terms of taking a decision to trim the size of the National Assembly in terms of the membership. Yeah, so those would be some of the tough choices that will have to be taken by the current elected National Assembly.
Is it value for money? I mean, when we're looking at 400 MPs, do you get your return on investment here?
But
for also $1 million per MP.
Exactly, it's just a lot. But remember, there's that commission that regulates the benefits and the salaries of these political office bearers or members of parliament. But it's huge by comparative standards if you compare ourselves with our counterparts in Africa and also globally. But also, there is a sense that if you look at the caliber of our MPs, does that link with the salaries that they're supposed to earn? And also, to what extent are they being able to effectively exercise their oversight role over the national executive? If those AG reports are anything to go by, and also some of the issues that are coming through some of the inquiries and the commissions, it means they've been sleeping for some time.
Interesting. So, yeah, we're hoping something changes on this one. Now, another issue is, of course, the cabinet size. And this is one thing that we're not talking to seats now. Now we're talking to our ministers, our deputy ministers. There's been talk that this is going to be reduced substantially, which will save a lot of costs, join some ministries together. Is this another route that is going to be positive financially for us?
Definitely. That is the right move to take. And it is good that the special ANC-NEC meeting has given the President the green light to say, proceed to trim the size of the cabinet. But we are looking at possibility of some departments merging. So if you take, for example, the economic cluster, a department or ministry like DTI and economic development, there is a possibility that they could be meshed. You look at the social cluster, the Minister of Women and Social Development, obviously the two have to be meshed because there is some cross-cutting functions and issues that the two ministries are dealing with. Sport, arts and culture, there could be a decision to revert to the status quo prior to 2009 and have the two departments merging, and also possibility of telecommunications, communication, postal services also merging into one ministry. So that would be also good news for the economy, because now it speaks to the extent that the state is able to then prudently manage the public funds also by trimming.
Our Finance Minister, Tito Mboweni, staying on?
Yeah, my bet is that the President will by all means try to persuade him to stay in the position, obviously for the purpose of stabilizing the markets and also ensuring that there is policy certainty. But there may be a possibility that the president may appoint someone as an understudy to waning, to say in the event he takes a decision to reshuffle after a year or two, then that person will have been exposed to the markets, to the international investment community, the business community, and is likable by the community.
Yeah, well, that'll be an interesting one to watch as well. The provinces and the number of provinces, because there's been a lot of talk that 9 provinces is too many for South Africa. And bringing down the number of provinces will also bring down the admin costs and all of the full administration that goes into all 9 provinces. What are your views on this?
The size of provinces has to be trimmed as well. That's my position on that. And if you look at the functioning of some of the provinces, at the moment, some of the provinces, they are spending a bigger chunk of their budget on the salary bill at the expense of capital budget. So they have to rely on the National Treasury to also assist them in terms of funding some of their programs. You have 200 MPLs. Some of these provincial legislatures will have to also find a way to have them trimmed. So the president did mention that during his previous sonnet, to say he will also look into consideration around the reduction of the number of the provinces from 9 to 6 possibly, or 9 to 4. But that is also in line with their policy position before they came into power in 1994, because they advocated a unitary state. So within the governing party, there are those who are saying, let's revert to that unitary model, have the national executive and have local government being given certain functions and powers to execute their mandate.
Also, government workforce, I know I'm jumping from issue to issue, but there is so much. Government workforce, there was talk and speculation that the government was entertaining shedding around about 30,000 jobs. Will we see anything come of this? I mean, again, when we talk to government and the workforce, and it's too top heavy and it's not affordable anymore when you talk about those that are relying solely on the government for an income. Your views again on this?
I think on that, Leanne, I think there will be obviously a cap for the next 2 years in terms of employing new senior managers, those who are part of the senior management service, because those are people who earn huge salaries beyond 1 million. So there could be a cap on that, but also there could be other measures that are taken by the national executive in terms of addressing the size of the public service. But interestingly, in 2017, the Stats SA report on non-financial census indicated or revealed that there are 44,000 vacancies in most of the municipalities. So
44,000 vacancies.
And these are crucial departments: electricity, roads, transport, and also infrastructure. So some of the municipalities, they still have to find a way to attract these professionally skilled individuals to fill those particular vacancies.
Indeed, which brings into question that whole issue of cadre deployment versus prioritizing competency, and that's what we unfortunately haven't had a time to talk about, but that's at the key of everything. Thank you. Thanks so much for talking to us. Dr. Sam Koma is the head researcher at Milpark Business School, talking to us about the economy going forward and the changes that need to take place in order to bring South Africa into a much more stable position and also to see some growth finally in those numbers. All right, it is 7 o'clock. I'll hand you over to Sakina.